Hello there everybody and welcome to a new build guide for Age of Wonders 4. I'm back with the Mystics and I tried to find some good usage for the attunement school and yeah, they didn't disappoint. So what we're running here is a very classic nuke hit and burn strategy that relies a lot on battle mage background and has a lot of nuking capabilities and at the same time has very effective ways of debuffing the enemy and staying in control. I really like this one and I meant to share. So what we are working with is a very standard package of traits here. Arcane Focus and Keen Sighted is just a wonderful package for every magic damage oriented build on the Mystic side. Adaptable goes without saying, is right now one of the strongest traits available. The Attunement School allows us to get us Star Blades, which means every time we cast a spell, we get a damage bonus on our units. Astral Echoes can be used to either speed up spells on the map or to ignore battle magic point limitations and use astral echoes instead of battle magic points. So as long as we have astral echoes, we are allowed to cast. Mind you, you still need the mana though. So that's what we are working with. I went trade-wise with gifted casters because mostly the 20% mana reduction is quite tasty, and while you see that I have a itty-bitty amount of mana left over, I can only say you can't have too much mana with this build because you have stupidly many options with it, even or especially if you have a lot of mana. The other thing I went with is Mana Addicts. Since we are running a strategy that ideally wants to spam spells every turn, this one comes in handy without saying. So we gain Life Leech, which makes our units a lot more resilient. This is a really powerful innate support tool and makes the build very strong. Downside, you need to unlock it first, and your people will suffer a bit of a morale issue if you are not casting any spells anymore. But in the average situation, you will always have Astral Echoes left to use if you ever get into the situation that you can't cast anymore because of the limitations. Anyways, that's what we're working with trade-wise. Let's get into the tomes. So the start is pretty simple and straightforward evocation. It gives us all the tools that we would want to. Fulmination, a spammable spell for the battlefield. Lightning Focus and Lightning Blades to amp up our frontline and or battle mage damage potential. Lightning Torrent becomes in the hand of the Attunement School a menace, as you are able to just invest 80 echoes to cast that spell again, and then invest 80 echoes to do it again and again and again until the army is no more. Technically, you have the capability of to just nuke things away as long as you have the mana and the echoes with that, and that is quite scary. Lightning Torrent is a powerful tool. At the very least, it softens up the enemy in terms of lightning resistance, which is a very powerful trait about this spell. Evokers are not so needed, but welcome, as they are a pretty nice intermediate filler, but we have better tier 3 battle mages to begin with, and the lesser storm spirits. I love them, as we can also speed up summoning spells, so this comes in as a crutch if you need ever some units in between. I like that one, as these are hard to kill with ranged attacks, have a decent punch, and evolve eventually into something even better. Lightning weapons for your heroes, really useful. Channeling towers, really amazing mana producing provinces, but mind you, they don't yield any gold or anything like that. But yeah, mana is essential for this build. The other tier 1 was a surprise flex into Necromancy. We are not going deeper into Necromancy with this build, but this tome has a lot of potential to serve as well. First off, Necrotize is a single target spell that is really nice as it inflicts a debuff that denies healing, really useful in itself, also damage over time, and transforms the enemy into a zombie after he's dying. This zombie can further be utilized via Rotting Explosion, so 2 hex radius dirty bomb explosion for more decay, or just a strategically usable unit. Either way, these two spells synergized gosh darn well into our focus of casting something every turn, as Necrotize is a very cheap spell if you ever have to mind your mana most of the time won't be happening though. Soul collection is a necessary evil for us as we want to have the souls to spam Rotting Explosion, and we can also use souls for skeleton reanimation after combat to have even more units to explode or just waste up the front line. They're free units, so don't mind them. Necrotic Magic is a really nice upgrade for our Battle Mage backline, and the Decaying debuff that they inflict is a real menace, countering most supporty playstyles just in their beginning, or making it at least a lot harder to heal up the units. Necromancers, yeah, well, they raise more zombies that you can't explode. They also power up the zombies or your skeletons. Either way, they are pretty useful all around. They don't heal your units though, mind you. They are more of a summoner troop. Since we're not going down the road with the necromancy scheme all the way, we are not going to utilize these guys in their full extent, but raise undead, strengthen undead is a really interesting combination with all the things that we are already using. Unholy Leader didn't find too much usage in this build for me. The Soul Well is quite interesting as we can increase our mana income, as we are pretty good at building conduits and research posts, and the soul income never hurts. So, next up, I went into the Doom Herald Tome. This one brings us strategic tools. First off, Cause Despair is for us a spammable resource. We don't have to mind the battle main, the strategical points, so we could spam that every turn if we'd wanted to. Very powerful. If you use a Wizard King, which I highly recommend, you can even toss that twice in one turn, which is really devastating. Joy Siphoners is just amazing for our entire species. We rock a lot of racial units, so this makes all your battle mages, frontliners, everybody, hurt the enemy's morale while increasing your own. What's not to like about that? Cool Weaponry is a massive power-up for your frontliners as soon as the enemy's morale is dropping, and I can only say 30% are really a lot. You really notice it. I've seen tier 1 units rip enemies to pieces with damage points up to 30-40 per blow. It's amazing. So Cruel Weaponry also is applicable to your heroes, which have way higher base damages, so that's pretty nifty too. And Doom Depth Trench, if you can afford the stability dip, it is very nice as it offers us knowledge and mana, all things that we can require. Also an open invitation to play a little bit more evil. Prelude of Doom, well, the nasty thing here is we can't spam that on the before the battle starts, so technically due to the Astral Echo gameplay, these spells can be used like you can have a lightning spell, a Prelude of Doom on the enemy, all at the same turn. Just use those echoes, you know. And the Summon Banshee spell, well, it is in so far interesting as it can transform your mana into a tier 3 battle mage, but our own tier 3 battle mages, I found them just more appealing, so exclude that if you may. I really didn't find that too interesting altogether. The other tier 2 I picked up for this build, Mayhem, as it offers us a multitude of tools that we want to have. Mark of Misfortune makes our backliners now, well, debuff the enemy to no end. Mind you, you could also rock Tome of Souls here, which inflicts Soulbound on the enemy, which makes them raise as zombies. Very useful tome here, but I chose Mayhem because Mayhem is very much more versatile. Curse of Misfortune, 2 hex radius, fumble, debuff. I want to emphasize 2 freaking hex radius. This thing is ginormous, so you can really toss that on the enemy and have a huge payoff for that. And since we don't mind the strategical costs again, really good stuff. Infectious Insanity is one of my favorite spells, and with a Wizard King, tossing that twice on the enemy in one turn can be devastating. So Confusion is a nice little siege project. Never a bad thing. And the Gremlins, well, here again, an opportunity for us to transform mana into troops. And the Gremlins are hard to kill, synergize pretty much with everything we did so far, you know. All the enchantments we racked up apply to these bad boys. So they are pretty devastating damage-wise. Absolutely usable, but they don't get the bonuses from your racial transform here, mind you. So, Mark of Misfortune for your heroes, good stuff. There we have our tier 2 realm done. Tier 3, we are heading now all into Astral. This is where this build is also staying from here. Amplification is just all the goodness that your battle mages could wish for. Frenzying Focus, which gives them the strength and buffs that stacks that they want. Astral Blood for the rest of your species to get critical hit chance when you're casting spells, which we're using all the time. Amplify Minds, yeah, city stability might become an issue with your cities though if you want to use all the things that you have available, so this is a little bit harder to use in my humble experiences. So Amplified Arrows, if you run skirmishes, pretty nifty, put all together, really easy to exclude. Amplification Pylon though, hell yeah, really powerful little thing, as it will make your spells hurt so much more. Speaking about spells that hurt, Chain Lightning is there for you, as it is really a hard-hitting little thing that can be used really good on clusters of enemies. Resonance Fields are, for this build, not nearly as interesting as for others, so you could ignore them a little bit. You know, those world map and combat casting points, they become so quickly irrelevant for this build, as Astral Echoes are easily acquired. Spell Amplification, though, that's a wonderful one. You know, more damage on your tactical spells. What's not to like about that? When we do combine that with amplification pylons, we have really a lot of fun going on. And off we go into Teleportation Tome. This is a surprise hit for this build. I haven't seen it coming, but, you know, stuff like Mass Recall, we can't spam that. That means we can have armies elsewhere. If necessary, all we need is 300 mana, 300 echoes, and boom, an entire army stack at your nearest city. That's an insane trick that only the Attunement School can pull off, that I really find extremely impressive in terms of Teleportation Tome. Emergency Teleportation is a wonderful blitz heal friendly displacement spell that is also quite spammable. You know, we have spells all day. Phasing Enchantment is an amazing little thing for any battle mage focused build, and the Astral Trade Relay, well, gold never hurts, you know, it is always nice to have gold, because gold pays big armies. And Phase Beasts, yeah, you can summon them, they're amazing. Good damage, hard to kill, low maintenance, just the Imperium costs suck, but they are a really nice complement to your armies, as they can kill what gets into your backline or kill what needs to be killed in the enemy backline. They can disrupt enemies' defense modes. So much goodness in behind these. Nothing more to say. Quick phase for your heroes, really lovely as it is a free action. And Chronogate brings you free teleporter provinces. Amazing stuff. So, last but not least, you will stay in the Astral Affinity, as that gives you all the tools that you want. Astral Convergence is insane, as you get another attunement spell. You know, we're casting spells every turn anyway, so we're absolutely in it. And this tome amplifies that whole shtick even more. Cascading power gets stronger with every spell, and yeah. Enough said. I don't really need to add into anything here. Astral Mirror, by the way, is a very interesting little thing here as well for this tome, as the Astral Reflection spell is usually too costly combat spell-wise, but yeah, for us it ain't. We just have to have the mana, and then we can copy our own units like crazy. As much as we want to, because we are not going to worry about these costs too much. I just want to mention that the Attunement School has a very interesting approach onto limitations that usually influence your decisions. Not here, though. So, let's talk roster. We're going to utilize Arcane Guards and Arcanists really not so much. We have something better in every roster. The Arcane Guards, though, stay interesting throughout all the game, as their Sundered Resistance ability makes the mages of yours hit harder. They're really cheap to come by and relatively resilient-ish. They're okay? But unlike other builds, the tier 1s here aren't entirely useless. Arcanists, though, should be totally replaced by either Evokers or Spellbreakers eventually, so don't train these. They're really a dead end for your build. Evokers are the cheap man's Spellbreaker. They have a small AoE, they have a decent attack, but altogether, well, they are so much worse than the Spellbreaker, so only build as many as you need to stop the mid-game. It is a really hard thing, as we do need them to some degree for the damage, but don't go for more than 2 or 3. Fill it up with that spellbreakers later. Necromancers, it's the same thing. 1 or 2 of them are really nifty, as they can get you another zombie to work with, which is really nice, as your front line is mostly summoned stuff and tier 2 things that you just keep patched up. The necromancers help you out in giving you more things to work with. The soothers are massively important for their healing, also making your spells cheaper doesn't hurt at all. Soothers are at a rate of 3 to 4 in your armies, a good thing to have. Spell shields are your major frontline. They're relatively hard to kill, they have a nice AoE stun, and they work in this build mostly because you're debuffing the hell out of the enemy's morale, and they will have a insane fumble chance due to the misfortune stacks. This makes it so that tier 2 shields are totally okay for your front line. If you can get better stuff via Rally of the Lieges though, it's a pretty good thing to pick up a tier 3 shield or such. Frontliners are rare good for this build. Nothing comes without downsides. Spellbreakers. These guys though are really massive. A 1 hex radius nuke that that strips the enemy of all of their buffs and is doubled in damage against magic origin units. Crazy stuff. These guys hit like a truck, need to be protected at all times, and should be as soon as you can afford it, they can replace all of your battle mages, as they are the most impressive battle mage that this build can field. Even more impressive than the Banshees and anything else that we're doing. They're really, really good stuff. And I personally think this build should revolve around these a lot. Speaking about revolving things, our build wants to cast spells, always. So feel free to spam that Fulmination, spam the damage spells, spam Cause Despair, Misfortune, Insanity. All of these tools are highly necessary to keep your armies healing themselves. That also means spells before attacking. Very, very important for this faction, as the Starblades are extremely powerful, but only if you stack them. Therefore, it's a really interesting and important approach, as this build forces you to cast your spells always before any other action is taken. Like I said in between the lines, I highly recommend running a Wizard King, as the over-channel ability is godsend for this build, allowing you to have 2 stacks of Starblades going in 1 turn. That's really, really amazing. So there's also the capability of getting yourself Weaver on your hero, which allows you to do that stuff just another time. Well, with your heroes, I always run with this build a melange of supporty things and summony things. Dark Ritual is a hidden superstar in this build, as the decaying zombies can be utilized with your Rotting Explosion. That's a really, really nifty little trick. I love to have on my heroes stuff that summons stuff, because our frontline is a little bit flimsy, in all honesty. That's our biggest downside. Therefore, the summons are good, but also Mass Rejuvenation. This is a real powerhouse of a signature skill, and whenever you can get it, because it's really, really powerful to get yourself that blanket heal whenever you get pelted by big stuff. Apart from that, I ran here a higher focus on damaging abilities on my heroes than usual, as well, most of the support skills here aren't that super interesting. At least I felt like that was the case. I picked up Restoration for every one of my heroes, as I find this pretty much a must-have skill due to the negative status removal. It is just such a powerful thing. If you have that 3 times on your army, it's almost impossible for the enemy to debuff a strategical part of your army to the point that your strategy might ever come to a halt. And that's why I really, really like that spell so much. Apart from that, I focused in this build way harder into warfare and battle magic, as the fun part is, due to the life leech of mana addicts and all the other layers of debuffing and everything, you won't be missing too much of the supporty things. 3 Soothers and the heroes had an easy time of patching together my armies without any problem. The real main take of this build is it hits like a truck. It is really insane how much damage you get together while blasting your enemies with spells, boosting up your own units, debuffing the enemy while doing that, so that's really good. As a tip here and towards the end, if you are facing big armies, stuff that threatens you to burst down big parts of your army, work with Infectious Insanity, Despair, and Misfortune instead of the nukes. With big armies, it's really hard to nuke away enough of the enemy army to disrupt their damage profile. But Infectious Insanity and these debuffs do exactly that. Your main focus in big fights is to survive the first 1 or 2 turns, avoid getting blasted too hard, losing too much of your backline or frontline, and once you get into retaliation mode, once you get the ability to just summon out stuff and blow against the enemy, usually I had no problems whatsoever to win those fights. Economy-wise, well, the Mystics always have that problem for me that they have a slow start. I rarely find a fast start economy-wise with the Mystic Culture. So altogether, my usual approach is I'm stalling these special province improvements until the late game because they are halting your city development too heavily, as you want to have 2 quarries, 2 forests, 2 farms, at least to have the boosted building procedures, and after that is all done, after your cities are tier 3, it pays off to go into these special province improvements. This is just the hidden downside of the Mystic Culture in general. Their building power ain't that big. What you have though is a massive stay here in the diplomatic area and research area. Pick up knowledge extraction, all-seeing, and once you can get a Court of Whispers as well, so you can get yourself a nice knowledge income out of those free cities. The other thing is, no, here, Philosopher Soldiers is also a really nice and nifty side thing to pick up for your dudes, because all in all, you'll always level up your units. Also very interesting for your build, Quickening. That's just goes without saying. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Nothing more to say. I really enjoyed with this build the capabilities of producing knowledge points with the Shadow Astral combination. Alright, that's that. It's a very classy nuke build with a surprise splice into necromancy without being too much of a necromancy build. I really like that one. The mainstay here is that you will need the summoning spells and some spell shields to get this strategy working. And as you see here though, I'm working with only 1 spell shield in the entire army, and 1 storm spirit. The rest is all summons and heroes. It's amazing how well you can protect your backline with this build, as you have such a plethora of tools. I really enjoyed that. So feel free to comment, feel free to leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and check out the description box, full of links to other Age of Wonders things that I did, and of course, feel free to support the channel. If you like my work, I'd be forever grateful. A big thanks to all of you who do, and a big thanks especially to you for having watched this video up until the very end. Deeply appreciated, and I hope you had a good time. See you all in the next one. Bye bye.